Sid wins again. It's like it's a thing or something. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Canada 3, United States 2 in overtime last night in Boston. The Canadians win the Four Nations face-off. Connor McDavid with the overtime goal. And there's a lot that I could say about the game, which was unbelievably fast and entertaining and fun and everything else you'd want it to be, and probably a whole lot more. I could say tons of things about the tournament as a whole. Chiefly that I had no idea Jacob Slavin was a hockey god. But here's the problem. We're running out of time. Because today, the Penguins are back at practice. Tomorrow, they play the Capitals. And the day after that, they play the Rangers. Both of those being matinee events at PPG Paints Arena. And both of those being, at least theoretically, if you're the cup is half full sort, every bit as important to the team as the handful of games that preceded it that they were legitimately making a big deal out of, not just in words, but in deeds, with how hard they were competing. Or maybe this just won't seem like it matters all that much after the tournament. I don't know. There's only one player and one head coach coming back from this thing, and we'll see how that mixes with, facing a real rival in the Capitals, another real rival in the Rangers, trying to rev things back up to where they were before the break. And while we're at it, let's remember that Mike Lang's passing is going to cast one heck of a pall over this, as should be expected for the crowd and certainly for everyone in the organization who knew and loved him, including a lot of players still in that locker room. What happens now? What happens next? Will Sid play? You think about that at all? You might have noticed through this tournament, but especially in the game last night, he can't shoot a hockey puck. He got one shot that he was able to get on net. Didn't get much on that, and it couldn't be more glaring that the elbow injury that he sustained that kept him out of a couple games before the break hasn't exactly gone away and might have even gotten worse. But if you're him, what do? All of Pittsburgh just watched you skating around, flying around, knocking Mikael Granlund into next week, giving absolutely everything he had, and then you're coming back while your other teammates, your Pittsburgh teammates, were in Cranberry revving up for what they themselves insist needs to be a continuation of where they left off. So if you missed a couple of games before the break, then you go to Four Nations and just play as if it's the end of the world, and then come back and miss the next couple of games or more, it'll be interesting. But let's take it further than that, because next year is the NHL's return to the Olympics that'll take place in Milan, Italy, and there's not exactly any suspense as to whether or not Canada will want Sid there. Heck, McDavid himself blurted that out last night. He's going to be there. How does Sid really see these events? Does he see them as his last chance to compete for even more championships? And by the way, the one last night was his 10th. If you count the Quebec League, World Juniors, World Championships, 2 Olympics, World Cup of Hockey, and of course, the 3 Stanley Cups. But hey, what's 11, right? Is that how he's keeping his championship hunger, his drive alive while understanding and going along with what's happening in Pittsburgh? I can't answer that. Nobody could answer that. In fact, I don't know that Sid could or would, but it did cross my mind last night, and I expect it'll continue to cross my mind for days to come. In the meantime, not to turn a positive into a negative, all he does is win. and all he does is perform within those wins. Couldn't shoot a puck, ended up with a goal and 4 assists over the 4 games in the tournament. And it's a tournament that he himself acknowledged last night in all likelihood represented a higher level of play even than what he experienced in previous international events, including the Olympics. Our Taylor Haas, who's covered the event in both Montreal and Boston, asked Sid last night to try to compare.
You've won Cups, Olympics, Worlds. How does this compare? How does this rank for you?
Yeah, I mean, we get that question a lot. I think with a new event, new format, that sort of thing, it's hard. But just talking about the level, just how good every team is, and how difficult it is in the short term event like this to come together as a group and play the way you want to play and go through all that. I thought it was an awesome experience. It's hard to rank it, but still to be part of this group, find a way to win it, and the atmosphere and the environments that we're in between Montreal and here were incredible. And I think people, watching could feel how bad, everybody wanted to win and what they put into it. So it's hard to rank it though.
And someday when Sid makes his permanent way into everybody's Mount Rushmore arguments and permanently bumps Gordie Howe off of everybody's list, what he's going to be remembered for more than anything, more than scoring titles and MVPs and whatever, is all of the team success, the ridiculous amounts of team success that he's not only participated in but presided over as a captain. And there's only one, Sidney Crosby. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q, we go to Rob in Atlanta who says, DK, this is hockey at its best, and the United States is almost on equal footing with Canada. The slight difference is they have 29, 87, and 97, those, of course, being Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, and Connor McDavid. Jake Gensel showed he's worth the money that he's getting paid. He's clearly not a Sid creation. Again, I have so many different things I could say about the game, the tournament, and everything, but I'm inclined to agree with you strictly within that prism there that you said the difference is that they have 29, 87, and 97. The best forward on the United States in this game last night was Jake. And I don't even know that there was a close second. Over the course of the tournament, the best forward was Brady Tkachuk. And yes, of course, the Americans would have benefited from having Matthew Tkachuk. I don't think anybody would dispute that. But when you look at the Americans, what they needed more than anything else in these games was somebody finishing, somebody getting it done. And their forwards were not effective, were not explosive. I know there's, some complaining already that was going on last night among U.S. hockey fans that Kyle Connor was a healthy scratch. Kyle Connor, of course, being a really fast and really skilled scorer with the Winnipeg Jets, didn't do much to that stage of the tournament, but absolutely was going to be healthier than Matthew Tkachuk. Oh, and by the way, he was absolutely going to be able to contribute more to your cause than, let's say, Brock Nelson. So could the U.S. do better in terms of getting, more scoring forwards or just getting more of an impact from the scoring forwards they had? Like, where was Jack Hughes? And Austin Matthews had a couple of assists, and then he just totally fell asleep on the overtime goal, loses the draw cleanly to Connor McDavid, then lets him go, which is only the most cardinal sin in all of hockey. You're a center, you get beat on the draw on your own end, you follow your center, period. And what was worse, Matthews actually had McDavid, but then abandoned him to go after his buddy Mitch Marner in the corner. Marner wasn't going to score from there. So you're still looking for more from the Americans offensively. I'd like to see a little bit more youth in there. I'd like to see, for example, Logan Cooley, the kid from West Mifflin who's really putting on a show in Salt Lake City this season. I'd like to see more of those types rise up and bump out the Brock Nelsons. But you know what? I also could say a couple of things in reverse. One, I'm sure Canada would love to have America's goaltending. Yes, of course. Jordan Binnington was wonderful in overtime last night. He really was. Validated their decision. Doesn't change the reality that Canada is not exactly bubbling over at the game's most important position. The Americans had 3 goaltenders better than any of Canada's 1. That's not sour grapes, that's a fact. The Canadians would love to have had the blue line that the Americans put forth, even with Adam Fox continuing his blah season in New York out there on the ice for the United States. I'm not even sure what additional superlatives I could find to describe the way Jacob Slavin played, but he looked like a legitimate hockey superstar through that tournament. I think we've all known always that he's been good, especially, in a place like Pittsburgh where you see the Hurricanes 3 or 4 times a year. But that was something else. And you could say the same for most of the American Defense Corps, while reminding yourself that the one who might be the best of them wasn't even able to participate, that, of course, being Quinn Hughes. So does that even out over time? I don't know. I do know that I saw something in the first period right away that I didn't like, which was that the Americans were playing against the Canadian forwards instead of playing the game at the other end, other than Jake. And that, to me, is where ultimately this one went wrong, because I think the Americans could have taken control of this game a lot earlier. See what I mean when I said I could talk about this? I could do this. I really could. I'm not going to. There's a practice today for the NHL team. There's a game tomorrow. And again, there's another one on Sunday. I'll be covering both of those. And I'm looking forward to all of it, except for, all the requisite emotions everyone's going to be experiencing tomorrow. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these on Monday.